Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you here this morning. We certainly thank the BYU, Brigham Young University Museum of Art, just a wonderful setting, and with what we're about to talk about with this display behind us. And when you hear what we talk about this morning, you'll know why we chose this wonderful room here. I'm Jim Evans, the chair of the United Way of Utah County Board of Directors, and it's great to be here with you. And we're excited that you would be here from the community. I mean, I see people representing Provo City and the media and Brigham Young University and our advisory members that supports the initiative of the Chamber. Steve, great to have you here. And I won't name all of you by name because I'd forget somebody. So it's wonderful to have you here. But our initiative that we want to kick off is called Everyday Learners. And we'll talk about what that means in our community and how we can be everyday learners ourselves, how we can help our children and our grandchildren and our neighbors and even ourselves become everyday learners in all that we do. Not only are we here in front of the exhibit with the books behind us because reading is such a key part of being everyday learners, and we need to do things in our initiative to help people read more and prepare more for school, but things such as going to museums, bringing children and grandchildren to museums such as this where they can learn and experience and explore. That's such a key part of being an everyday learner and everything that they do, and so we'll talk about some of those things today. But once again, we welcome you. We're grateful for your support, and at this time I'd like to turn the microphone over to Mr. Bill Holterstrom, our President and CEO of the United Way of Utah County. We'll introduce our topic more. Thanks, Bill.
Good morning. Once again, thank you for being here. I think I know most all of you and appreciate your willingness to step up and be a part of this activity. My assignment this morning is to share with you some information about why we're trying to start this initiative called Everyday Learners. Let me just start with an interesting study that was just presented barely a few months ago by the Annie Casey Foundation. They did a study of over 4,000 students, a very longitudinal study, so a very extensive study. If you are not reading at third grade reading levels, on grade level, your chance of dropping out of school increases fourfold. If you're low income and in poverty, 6 times greater chance of dropping out of school. And that should be a worry to us all, but let me give you some more data that goes with that. In Utah County, this last year, 3 out of 10 Utah County students in third grade were not reading at grade level. 3 out of 10, 30%. That would be 2,500 third graders that are not reading at grade level. If you do the math on that, you'll realize very quickly that means in a 4-year period we have 10,000 students who have just quadrupled, if not 6 times, their chance of dropping out of school and failing. And you realize that we previously only had 571 dropouts. Statistically, if we can't get a hold of third grade reading scores, we have a crisis on our hands. We're fortunate that our dropout rates have historically still been very low in Utah County. But if you look at the slide, you'll note that our economically disadvantaged students are dropping out at a much significantly higher, 3 times rate of the community at large, as our limited English proficiencies are dropping out at about a 50% increase. I want to show you a little tool here that's found on our website, on the United Way Worldwide website, which is called the Common Good Forecaster. Using quite a bit of statistics, I'm using the statistic just for Utah as a whole, not our county. We'll break down to our county later. And it shows you the various, you can see here the life expectancy, birth rate, and that's where we'd be today. If we are able to, if we fail and increase the number of dropouts, and if we drop every down 1 notch level of school, this is what happens to our life expectancies. You'll see that the murder rates would increase. You'll see that low birth rates increase. Go on to the next slide here. If we do the opposite, yet increase our graduation rates, this is what happens to life expectancy and low birth rates. So the phenomenal correlation between graduation, third grade reading, and other life measurements. Go on for me here. Financial stability. In the last 10 years, our financial average family income has not risen when factored for inflation in Utah County. There's been virtually no increase in the last 10 years when factored for inflation. Using this data here, if we could increase graduation rates then increase the other rates that would follow, our average household incomes skyrocket, our poverty rate plummets, and our unemployment rates would go down. Go to the next slide. This is a fascinating one here, that not only would voting increase normally from the statistics, but your incarceration rates would plummet. So it's easy enough alone to make a case, pure financially, that greater emphasis on school success and third grade reading scores, and more importantly, on preparation for school, can have phenomenal impact for our community. This tool is available for all of you. You're able to access it online and move the data around. But the research is very profound that we can make a difference in our future condition here in our community. Thank you. I'll turn the time now over to John.
Thanks, Bill. You know, I am learning a lot. I've been asked to be the chairman of our education group on the United Way board. Just recently joined the board in this last year, and I really never knew that third grade reading levels were that predictive of future success. I actually ran into an old friend of mine a week ago up from Arizona. I was in third grade in Arizona, and all we could talk about was the Jacks tournament that we played in third grade. And yet our reading levels at that time are so predictive of our future. Well, I'm thrilled to be a part of this and thrilled to learn and also to feel the energy that exists in our community. I think we all know that we live in a fabulous place here in Utah Valley. We are lucky to be surrounded by people who are interested in each other and willing to sacrifice their time and energies to help one another. And I think we've all seen great examples of how groups of individuals can bring their collective power to make something great happen. And that's really what we're talking about today. We're talking about spending a little bit of time and energy on behalf of our children so that we can ensure wonderful futures for them. As Bill pointed out, there are some worrisome trends. We can see that if we're not careful and if we don't spend that time and energy and intervene in appropriate ways, we really could see some very devastating results from that. But we're at the point right now where if we'll just kind of become more aware and tap into the resources, many of which already exist in our community, we can make a big, big difference. There are great things going on. That's been one of the fun things about my involvement in the last few months, is just to learn about the tremendous programs that already exist in Utah Valley through our school districts, through other nonprofit organizations, and just throughout the informal elements of the community to assist our children. So today we are here to announce a wonderful new initiative from United Way that we are calling EveryDay Learners Advancing the Common Good. This initiative focuses not only on our Utah Valley children, but also on the entire community who we hope will rally around our children, recognizing the importance of education as a significant building block for their futures. We are anxious to pull together the resources, make us all aware of the things that exist, and give us an easy and effective way to tap into those resources as a community. We imagine a community filled with everyday learners, people who make it a priority to learn themselves, to help other people learn, and to assist our children in solidifying their futures. Now, I'm pretty convinced that Utah Valley is already filled with a lot of everyday learners, and we'll talk a little bit about what we mean by that in just a second, but we've got a lot of everyday learners here. But what we'd like to do as a specific goal is over the next 3 years to identify 10,000, that's 10,000, Rana, everyday learners who are really making it a priority to work on behalf of our children, who are really interested in that learning process for these children and for themselves and their families. Our hope is that they'll find the experience so rewarding that they'll talk about it and share their love of learning with others, and that this will spread like a wildfire throughout Utah County, and we will be known as a community who is interested in education, and particularly in the preparation of our children. We know that if our children fall behind early, that they will find it much more difficult to succeed later on. So the idea is, let's do it now. The side benefit is, as you parents know, it's really fun to do it when they're preschool in those early years. We can help. When they get into the later years, we can't help quite as much. We don't get it. So it's wonderful to be able to be a part of their lives early on. Now, we know that everyone has different amounts of time available to them, and everyone feels like they have different skill sets when it comes to being able to help our children with their learning processes. So we would like to think of this Everyday Learners initiative in two ways, two tracks, let's call them, or two groups. One track would be the group that we call the advocates. These are the people who don't necessarily sign up for a formal program, but they are taking advantage of everyday learning opportunities. Don't you love the name? So we're not only learning every day, but we're also learning as a result of these everyday tasks and experiences that we're having. So our advocates are those who just become a little more tuned in, a little more inspired by this desire to look for those everyday learning opportunities that they can enact with the people around them. These are the neighbors who make it a priority to know each child in their neighborhood by name and to be interested in their lives. If you want to have an interesting conversation, corner Bill sometime and ask him the effect of calling a child by name on their future development. It's astounding. These are the people who start a homework club in their neighborhood, maybe because one of their children needs it, but they start a homework club so that kids can get together and focus on their studies. And these are the people who take every opportunity to read to their children and their grandchildren. Those are the advocates. The second group are the volunteers. And these are the people who have enough time to be able to actually sign up and commit to some kind of formalized program for helping our children. Excuse me. These are people who sign up to be a reader, a tutor, or a mentor in some form or another. They sign up with existing programs like Help Me Grow, or Welcome Baby, or the South Franklin Community Club, or frankly, any number of very, very fine programs that exist within our 3 school districts in Utah Valley. Excellent opportunities for people to sign up and volunteer depending on how much time they have. Being a reader probably takes less time and a shorter commitment. Being a mentor asks for a longer commitment because as a mentor, you not only are helping with their studies, but you're providing a key role in developing an adult relationship that provides consistency and security and comfort to some of the young people in our community. Think about reading with children in a classroom. Gary, I'm sure through the Alpine School District, lots of opportunities for volunteers to sign up to come and read on a regular basis to either your child's classroom, a neighbor's child's classroom, or any classroom that's convenient for you to participate in. This is an opportunity to use your algebra skills, those of you who think you have some algebra skills, in tutoring a neighbor or someone else in your community. These are commitments that we can handle as members of the community, but they are little chunks of time and little pieces of commitment that make all the difference in the future of our children. Now, we live in a wonderful community. We are consistently ranked number 1 in volunteerism. We know that we're surrounded by terrific, terrific individuals who make this happen. I'm humbled all the time when I see what goes on in my neighborhood as people reach out and help one another. People are always willing to step up to the plate, and we expect this will be no different, that we as a Utah Valley community will step up to this plate. I tend to think that part of what we have to do here as a United Way is to just build awareness and make sure that we all know what those opportunities are. We don't have to build a lot of new machinery here. We just need to be aware, and we need to figure out how we can make it easy and convenient for all of us to tap in to the resources that are available. We are very, very excited to see the long-lasting changes that will come as we work together on behalf of our children in the Utah Valley community, and as we take really meaningful but easy-to-do steps to avoid the kind of trends that we're starting to see a little bit of in our community and redirect our Utah Valley community in the direction we know it needs to go and where we would all like to see it go. Now, I'd like to turn the time over to a couple of our terrific staff members at United Way who can give us a few more of the nuts and bolts of our advocate and volunteer groups. I'd first like to introduce Barbara Levitt, our United Way of Utah County's Early Childhood Initiative Director, who's going to give us a lot of great ideas about how to be advocates in the community. After Barbara, Summer Valenci, United Way's Community Engagement Director, will talk about volunteering and how to sign up to be an everyday learner. And Summer, I hope, will give us a little feeling for how we intend to keep track of our count toward 10,000 everyday learners in Utah Valley. Barbara?
Thank you, John. As we mentioned earlier, we call the informal work within our community the advocacy side of everyday learners. And one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite childhood stories, was Tom Sawyer. And one of my favorite scenes in that, or scenarios, is when Tom is assigned to paint the fence, and then he decides with his incredibly creative mind, determines a plan how he will rally others around him to perform this task. His plan did not include a formal registration and a background check and a reference and a training. He just started painting the fence. And what he did was he painted that fence with a particularly enjoyable aura about him so that others around him could see that this was a fun activity. I want to join in. I want to be part of this. The other boys rallied around him, and they decided they would like to join in the fun. And as they joined in, the workload lightened, and the fence was completed. And I think that we need to apply this same measure of creativity in our advocacy of everyday learners. To meet the challenges of our community, we need every single member of the community, every member of our community, contributing in their most creative and their most natural ways. And when we ask all members of the community to contribute, we have certain guiding principles. We must remember that it is within the context of a relationship that learning is magnified. We need to remember that perspective is everything, that giving a child the vision of the fun and the importance of reading and learning is necessary to create the motivation they need to overcome the obstacles of learning to read. Each individual volunteer brings to our community gifts, very unique gifts, and we need to be able to understand our gifts and bring them to the community. And follow your instincts. We have instincts as parents, as grandparents, as neighbors, as community members. It's so important to listen to those. Personally, I am very focused on early childhood, and we actually have some clippings here of things we're doing in the community through the early childhood area. The reason why I'm interested in early childhood is because I was formerly a business owner, and I love return on your investment. And early childhood is the greatest return on our investment. Kindergarten readiness has direct correlations to third grade reading skills. We have several initiatives here at United Way that I just want to kind of introduce. One is Help Me Grow. Help Me Grow is a parent information line. It's housed within 211, and it helps parents to receive information on what's developmentally appropriate for their children, and helps them detect delays, and also helps them to connect to community resources that can help change a child's life and have them ready for kindergarten readiness. Another program we have is Welcome Baby. It's a home visitation, and it is manned by volunteers. Every first-time parent in Utah County can get a home visit from an experienced mother, grandmother, or couple, and they receive information on development, on literacy, on health, on safety. It's a way that we can help parents to focus on their most important role as their child's most influential teacher. As community members, we bring gifts that help to build literacy. And I just want to mention a couple of these elements. And then you, like Tom Sawyer, can use your creativity to figure out how to make this happen. Vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. Children need huge vocabularies at kindergarten level to be able to excel in reading. Engaging in meaningful conversation. And that doesn't mean just lecturing, which we're all good at as parents. Strengthening relationships with children in our lives. As I said before, learning is in the context of relationships. Promoting exploration, reading aloud to children, and developing a love of the written language. Letting children tell stories or make up their own. Telling stories to children, engaging in play with children, and let the children, like in this video, lead the way. Giving lots of writing experience, such as scribbling, not on the walls, and coloring and cutting that prepare them for kindergarten. And for older children, the same elements exist. Read aloud to children at least 2 grade levels above their reading level, and read aloud until they leave your home to go to college. Use new words at least 3 times in meaningful conversations. Help children understand the application of information in their own lives. Get to know children and what they're interested in, and use their interests to guide your conversations. There are so many different ways. There are so many different children and easy ways to make a difference in a child's life. We encourage you to come up with your own way and figure out how you can make a difference as an advocate for everyday learners. Thank you. And I'm going to turn the time over to Summer.
Thank you. Well, as John mentioned, the other piece of being an everyday learner is being a volunteer. And that's what I'm going to talk about, is working with the existing volunteer programs that are already here in our county. We've been meeting with a lot of these organizations, such as the Court-Appointed Special Advocates, the NEBO Legacy Mentoring, and the Lehigh Rippey Literacy Center, that need volunteer reader, tutors, and mentors, and share the same vision that we have of engaging children in learning on a regular basis. We've received very positive feedback from our meetings when we share with them our desire to recruit 10,000 everyday learners. Sometimes all that's holding these organizations back are the volunteers, and so we're really excited to help provide those and put us in a different direction. If someone wants to volunteer with everyday learners, what we're going to do at United Way is host 30-minute orientation sessions. They're going to be really short. They're going to be at different times of the day, different days of the week, so we can hopefully catch one where you're available. You can come on your lunch break one day, maybe on a Saturday morning. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to come to one of these orientation sessions. And there we'll explain more about what these opportunities entail. John spoke a little bit about how being a reader, that's more of a one-time thing, or when you can. Being a mentor, that's a real commitment. So what we want to do is make sure that we get the right fit the first time for these everyday learners. Once we get that fit, then we're going to turn the volunteer over to these organizations. We're not interested in starting new programs. We want the Boys and Girls Club to do what they do with their volunteers. We want the NEBO Mentoring Legacy Center to do what they do as well. But we just want to add that value that they can feel connected, and we'll follow up with them, make sure that that connection is made and that they have a really positive experience. You can sign up for an orientation on our Everyday Learners website. It's www.everydaylearners.org. And you can just click through, and you can see what dates and times we have available and sign up. Now, not only do we want to get our volunteers connected to great opportunities, but we also want to support them throughout their everyday learners experience. And we don't want to just support volunteers, we want to support the advocates that Barbara mentioned as well. What we've done is we've created an online community where these everyday learners can come together and share their success stories and maybe ask some advice of other tutors or mentors, and also continue to learn about this this really important cause. We want to make sure that they feel connected to the community and connected to each other, because really what they're doing is such a great work. The Everyday Learners Network connects the everyday volunteers through Twitter and Facebook feeds. We're also going to post interesting articles and videos that people can look at, and other helpful tools. Perhaps we have a community calendar which will focus on the events in the community that are focused around education. So we're really trying to direct people to great resources that are out there. Finally, we want to host some quarterly networking events where we can bring all of these everyday learners face-to-face so they can meet each other and they can kind of recharge, get some more passion, and go out and continue to do their good work. We have many great existing programs here in our community that focus on reading and tutoring and mentoring. And what we want to do is connect you to those programs. And so we invite you to look for one that fits, your interests and sign up on our website. Thank you.
My wife, Tana, here in Alpine District, taught kindergarten for 27 years. I think Gary's dad hired her when she started. And we often would talk about and live that experience with her. And she stuck with kindergarten all those years, never wanted to change. And we'd talk about every year the preparation of the children coming into her classroom. And it really did make a difference. Those children who actually had parents and neighbors and others help them prepared to come and start out at that early age, they did better. And as we watched them through the years, I've asked, okay, now let's go back and look as she sees students, how they've done. And she said, they kind of did how I thought they would do. And so, number one, from a kindergarten teacher and a husband of a kindergarten teacher, I noticed that and lived that for all those years that she taught. Number two, as I drove up here today, knowing what we were going to be talking about, and pulled into this campus, gratitude overwhelmed me as I thought about the opportunities I had to come here to Brigham Young University and to learn here and to receive a degree, but more importantly, just for the things that it instilled in me to want to learn all my life. And then my gratitude all of a sudden quickly changed because those that know me know I'm not probably the best student in school, but I made it through. And but the reason I was able to make it through and even come into Brigham Young University, my gratitude for my parents and how they instilled in our home at an early age, be it my mother reading books to us and having books and things around the house, but it wasn't just, and here's where the community comes in. Not only my family, but I had a neighbor, Mr. McQueen, who at an early age let me come over and taught me how to work on cars. And for me, that was part of the everyday learning. It was learning and expanding my knowledge, and I didn't become a mechanic, but to this day, I love tinkering and trying to fix things, and I owe that to the everyday learning that my neighbors, Mr. McQueen, and my parents and others gave me. So this is real stuff. These are things that we can do today as citizens and help in everyday learning. So as we close, I see Steve Densley here, and those that know him, he always sends out at the bottom of his email, make it a great day. And I always remember that instead of just have a great day. And so we're going to end this with make it an everyday learning day. That's what I hope we'll do. Thank you for being here today, and we look forward, John, to supporting you and the staff in these initiatives. Thank you for being here today.